Hello, everybody. I am delighted and privileged today to welcome Dr. Ruth Katumari to Gokhale Institute of Politics and Economics in Pune. Dr. Ruth is currently Senior Director with the Commonwealth Secretariat. She is actually an international development expert and has been involved in uh, climate change studies for several years, especially as it applies to India. Earlier, she was director of the Asian Research Center at the London School. She's the founder of the I.G. Patel Chair at the London School of Economics, and she continues to co-chair the India Observatory at London School of Economics. More importantly, before I welcome her formally, I'd like to tell our viewers that Dr. Ruth is, we are very proud that she is the recipient of the Distinguished Alumna Award from the Madras Christian College in Chennai, a hallowed institution more than 100 years old, which was actually headed by Dr. Radhakrishnan before he became the second president of India. So welcome to Gokhale Institute, Dr. Ruth, and we are delighted. Tell us about this award from Madras Christian College.
Thank you, Dr. Ranade. It's my pleasure to be here at Gokhale Institute as a well-wisher and as someone who's interacted and have supervised fellows from Gokhale Institute, and we continue to collaborate with Gokhale Institute. I think it's my pleasure to be here with you today and to, in every way possible, to support you and the Institute's plans to be, which it is already, a distinguished institute in this space. And I wish you the very best to gain new heights.
Yes. But tell us about the MCC award.
So I must say, I don't know if I deserve it. It's like so many people do lots of great things in the world.
Yeah.
And I hope I've received it on behalf of all of people who do great things from MCC, as well as to contribute in the development and making a better world. So this was as you mentioned, the Madras Christian College has illustrious people like Dr. Radhakrishnan, like T.N. Sheshan, and many private sector leaders as well. And so this was instituted by the alumni of the Madras Christian College, this particular award. And I was honored and humbled to receive that. And I hope...
and it's always nice to get it from your alma mater. I want to actually maybe start most recent work, because I know that you've been very closely, deeply involved with the work on climate change. And I heard you mention that India is relatively at a better place when it comes to dealing, adapting, or mitigating climate change impact. So what are your views on that?
So India's leadership, like some of us have worked on building bridges with and for India for several decades, as well as also trying to promote India's global leadership position. So the first time G20 for me is a sense of pride to see India achieving the potential of its global leadership. And in many ways, the world needs India more than India needs the world. That's the position it has. It has the potential, and it has achieved that potential. Across aspects of development, and as part of us who've been involved with India's development story since the 80s, to see how dynamic both economic and broad range of sustainable development prospects and opportunities that exist in India. And some of us have been involved with the India story of the technology revolution. And my guru was called the grandfather of computer science in India. And it's wonderful to see how India is evolving in all these spaces, including a project that I'm currently working on with respect to financial technologies.
Fintech.
Yeah. And also we have partnership with Gokhale through your staff in that. And when I've been meeting people at the higher level of policy, it's amazing to see the opportunity, the growth, even which has fast-tracked since COVID, the adoption of technology, the rollout of technology, because it became essential. And so even technologies which existed have become much more mainstream now.
So in terms of inclusive development, in terms of progress in software-led, especially known as a software powerhouse in the world.
Mm.
But I want you to tell us something about, you said climate, when it comes to climate change, India is, because we just announced that by 2070,
Mm.
we'll be net zero.
Mm.
And you think we are at a good place?
Definitely, because India has gone through a journey since I was engaged since 2006-7 in India's journey to progress, sustainable ways of development. Because when a country is at a new stage of development or is an emerging economy, it's an opportunity to leapfrog to making a world or a country for our own benefit, making the country to be resilient and sustainable for the future. And India has progressed and has taken a huge leadership, including the concept of common but differential aspects of
Also,
how
the
developing
leadership of the
countries.
Global Solar Alliance.
Exactly, yeah.
But do you have any views on climate justice?
And this is where
developing countries like India feel
Yes.
that it's unfair to have a bigger burden
Yes.
when most of the emissions have
Yes.
come from the past.
Yes. So this is why India's common but differential, it's a strong proponent of that.
Yeah.
And that voice is very important globally. And India is leading in that conversation. And that's where it's about how does it transition to it is part of the just transition argument. This is why when India says our goal is to 2070, I think it's a more realistic goal. And I think India will achieve it before.
Yes.
But setting a bigger target is important because India has to find its own path, because it's a country with 1.4 billion population. And as we are emerging, our needs and demands would be high. And how do we work in a sustainable way alongside that and achieve this goal? But it can do that.
But you know, in the world today, there are so many uncertainties, geopolitics. I know that you actually have been involved in several things. You mentioned computer science, which I was very pleasantly, I was very pleasantly surprised to know about your connection. But you also worked in demography. You're actually in so many different fields of development. So how do you see going ahead the role of social sciences or economics in particular? The world seems to be going through so many cataclysmic kind of disruptions, especially coming from unexpected. Who would have imagined when the war in Ukraine broke out? It came as a surprise to many people. Now suddenly the situation in the Middle East, then these conflagrations. At the same time, there are growth and development aspirations. I mean, how do you see this going ahead, especially for young people who are getting trained in the social sciences and economics, getting prepared for a career? What is the prognosis?
So, I think of our world as it's as our one global digital world. Now, there is the opportunities that young people have is that my students in the early 90s didn't have web access. They didn't know anything about internet or what was happening around the world, except what they were always interested. So we as gurus were their knowledge. Whereas today, our young people here know exactly what's happening around the world. So that's an opportunity.
So it's a leveling.
It's a leveling. It's
Yeah.
also economically business. It opens the world as opportunity for young people. And we don't need to be physically moving or relocating, but we can sit somewhere and still engage. And so that's going to be hopefully some of the points we will make in the seminar as well. Yes, there will always be challenges. I designed the Commonwealth Universal Vulnerability Index,
Oh, yes.
which then has informed the UN multidimensional vulnerability index. The reason I mention it, because when I was designing, I said I will not make it economic index alone, because it used to be for 25 years economic index. So in that index, the important thing is we have to look at things in a multidimensional way. And this is where economics now has an advantage to look at, interlink it in a multidimensional economic, environmental, and socio-political. And the importance of the socio-political, when I was putting in socio-political.
What is the socio-political component of this index?
This is what has happened. I designed this before these things happened, but because I was thinking about other socio-political challenges that were erupting in the world, I was thinking of the smaller ones before when I designed it. I didn't expect what happened for Ukraine war.
It's quite amazing that you incorporated socio-political components to your universal vulnerability index, because normally people think of it in terms of incomes, livelihoods, maybe health status. I want to just jump ahead and maybe as a wrap up, see our youngsters, young students, they are doing courses in different areas of economics, including development, environment, demography. Also a lot of data analytics, data sciences. And you, since your projects are connected, you mentioned fintech. What would your, and sitting in London, you have a vantage view. Would you say is, which are the areas the young students should focus on, both masters and PhD students, or even our undergraduates? What should they focus on to build their careers?
So I would interconnect it with our previous discussion, as in we have to begin to think of the world in multidimensional ways. And there is opportunity. There's a lot of data is very important now, and the data is available. For example, I was at a conference on space and climate change, because, and the space data, these are all opportunities that exist. And so young people, on one side, you have all these challenges, but on the other side, it's almost the best time of the development path for young people.
True.
And they have, when you're given more, it's also your responsibility to get more out of it. And that's where they are. These problems will exist. We have to try and solve those problems. But when we focus on the good things that we can do, the opportunities exist. And the more people come together, especially young people, with the talents, with the exposure that they have, with the opportunities that they have, if we focus on making this world a better place, and doing our best, we will still achieve it. And we need our young people. We need young people's leadership. And they have the ability and the opportunities to do that in the multiplicity of the studies that they're doing and the opportunities that exist in the world as a world. And they are connected with our
And I think your own life and career is an example of that. Actually, you're right. India is in a very special place, a very large country, which is relatively young, median age of 27. So thank you. I think wonderful. Best descriptor of you, as you said, Dr. Ruth, a well-wisher of Gokhale Institute, and with a special vantage view as in London School of Economics. So thank you for visiting us, and we look forward to your more frequent visits to our institute. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Dr. Anade.